Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Damian Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead and Dave Hero. Welcome, boys.
Thanks for waiting to see if I was ready, but hey, that's all right.
Coming off the heels of the 540 ESPN radio show just of a couple of nights ago, where we had as our guests...
It was also Nelson Free.
Kip James and BG James. Of course, the fun doesn't stop there. Some more guests announced for next week. We'll talk about those in a minute. But, gentlemen, let's talk about the big news stories of the week. Firstly, of last week, 1 week ago today, actually, Jeff Hardy arrested and jailed. Here's what we know, and here's the whole story as it is to this day. Jeff Hardy was arrested last Friday after police, based on a tip, found pills and steroids at his house. The search warrant was executed at Jeff's house. They found 262 Vicodin pills, 180 somas, 555 milliliters of anabolic steroids, and residual powder cocaine. Estimated street value of the drugs was about $2,500. Jeff Hardy was arrested for trafficking, drug trafficking, controlled prescriptions, and possession of these steroids. He's now facing felony charges of trafficking opium, 2 counts of felony possession with intent to sell or deliver controlled substance, and maintaining a dwelling to keep controlled substance, a lab, and felony possession of cocaine and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia.
How can you laugh?
Yeah, you're laughing at a man's fate.
I don't recall laughing. I simply smiled.
See the smirk. I see a smile.
I had my TV face on.
You know.
Here's the official statement from the Moore County Sheriff's Department as it pertains to that situation. The sheriff, Lane Carter, reported the arrest of an individual on charges of trafficking in controlled prescription pills, all the stuff we talked about earlier, and that they executed a search warrant at his home. During the search, they found all the stuff we talked about earlier, and that was Jeff Hardy, who was arrested and then released on bond of $125,000. We've later found out that Jeff Hardy will be going to court on September 30th and will face the following charges officially: felony possession of campaign, felony drug trafficking of opium, 2 counts, felony possession with intent to redistribute a drug, maintaining a dwelling for drug use and or distribution, and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. The trafficking charge comes from the weight of the pills that Hardy had. Basically had so much of a quantity of those pills that it is assumed, not proven, but it is assumed that he was going to be selling those or distributing them in some way, shape, or form. Gentlemen, this comes off the heels of the Kurt Angle situation of a few weeks back, where he was relieved of most of those charges in a court of law just last week as well. But this certainly not a good time for World Wrestling Entertainment, specifically not a good time for Jeff Hardy as well. Firstly, Dave Hero, your thoughts on this situation?
Well, you know, Jeff did have a lot of pills on him. He had a whole lot of stuff with him, actually. But you got to figure over time, you know, when you get these prescriptions for the pain pills and the painkillers and the muscle relaxers, you don't use them all the time.
Right.
So who knows how long he's had that, you know? And as far as the steroids, the same kind of thing. You don't know how long he's had it for. I mean, you talk to a lot of the guys in the business, and they're the first ones to tell you, you know, the steroids aren't always a bad thing. That, you know, you take it in small doses, it helps you heal quicker. Jeff Hardy's the guy that takes the 30-foot leap off the ladder.
And
Advil and Tylenol 3 or PM Tylenol is not going to take the pain away.
And his brother Matt Hardy said that Jeff had been suffering from a lot of nagging injuries, including 2 bad ankles, a bad arm, and all kinds of pains in his neck. He has speculated they may have some vertebrae issues as well. All makes some sense. So you look at the pain that the man was suffering through and look at what happened to him and others like him, specifically Kurt Angle, back in and before his departure from WWE in 2006. It was the same situation.
Jeff Hardy's not a drug dealer, you know, so...
What benefit could he have by dealing drugs?
He made millions of dollars his last run. Why would he want to, you know, $2,500 in street value? Why would he waste his time?
Meathead, your thoughts?
We don't know until we know. Again, I'm going to go, don't even start. I'm going to go back to the Kurt Angle thing, where Damian Nelson and Dave Hero, not to throw you under the bus, jumped on top of this whole thing. All I'm gonna say,
It was a big story.
We took a stand.
We said he was-
you
He
took
charged.
an opinion
He was
and
charged.
passed
It's
it
a
off as
stand.
fact.
He was
Sam.
charged.
So
Just like Jeff Hardy is charged. You want me to go over the list of charges
no,
again?
we went over the list of charges. We don't
3
know
felonies.
until he goes into court. We don't know until he goes into court. Obviously, the fact that he was
September
charged
20th is his first court date.
30th.
30th. Pay
30th.
attention. We don't know until it's proven in court. The reason he has the trafficking, again, is because of the quantity, as Damien mentioned. It's just a legal stipulation. Once it's at this quantity, you get charged with this, and once it's at that, you get charged with that. So, of course, these guys are going to have some sort of pain pills hanging around their house. I'm going to defend a guy, too, and say, you know what? All these guys have some sort of pain pills sitting in their medicine cabinet, sitting in their bag, or sitting in the backseat of their car. Oh, wait, they probably shouldn't be doing that, though, huh?
Here's how I look at it. Chris Jericho, Ken Anderson took his side.
Mhm.
If they honestly thought that he was doing something wrong, at this time they would not put their name on Jeff Hardy.
But who's to define what's wrong? Are we going by the law or what the boys do?
I'm just saying that they put their name on him.
Okay.
Well,
You know?
he's been accused of breaking the law. He's been charged with, as I said, 3 felonies. Who knows what will stick and what won't stick, but the charges are placed. His home was raided. He was arrested. He has since been released. He made some statements as well, saying that you don't know the whole story. This isn't all of it.
None
and Dave,
of us do.
as we talked, once the story broke, I speculated and said, I'm not sure how unusual this is for a wrestler to have this much product. You look at a person who can't go to the doctor every week. Look at a person who probably can get, I'm not sure if you can get prescribed that much, to be honest with you. I don't know. But to have that much in your stash, your personal stash, may not be that unusual. However, it could be against the law, and that's where the problem starts.
That's exactly where I'm coming from. Thank you, young Republican. Again, just because it may not be something that the other guys don't do or do, that made sense somewhere.
Somewhere.
There's a law that has to be, again, like I said, you know what? I probably, if I were Jeff Hardy and I were in his spot, I probably would have that much in my medicine cabinet too. I don't know about the steroids. Maybe, he had it, again, to help him heal. And I understand that that's what steroids do. Guys abuse steroids, and that's where, the issues come in.
Jeff Hardy's not built like a guy that's
and
on
I
the
don't,
gas every day.
and I don't think he's abusing the steroids either.
But
Obviously,
opiates, that's a problem.
yeah, obviously he's gotten bigger through the years, but that's from the work and the muscles and all that. But I don't think it's from
Well, keep in
steroids
mind when Jeff
exclusively.
started 10 years ago, he was like, what, 22, 21?
Oh, he was younger, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course he's going to grow, but
Right. I'm not. Again, all I'm saying is, again, the law is written. There's a written law there, and Jeff may have broken it.
Is there not an assumption to be made, coming off the heels of the Rey Mysterio suspension a couple of weeks back for a wellness policy violation, is there not an assumption to be made that if Jeff Hardy was using the quantities of drugs he possessed, that there should have been and that there was a conflict with the WWE wellness policy? Last time Jeff was suspended for a wellness policy violation was in January of 2008, I believe. To have a week
March.
after being
Wasn't it March?
released, it was right after the Rumble. And
Yeah, I
then
believe it
he
was January
WrestleMania,
because
right?
he dropped the belt to Jericho at the Milwaukee Raw.
But one would assume coming off being released or leaving WWE a week prior or 2 weeks prior or whatever it was, that this wasn't a new amount of drugs that he was in possession of and using.
One could assume. Again, apparently that's what our show does: is we assume sometimes. We present
just
some
have
facts.
an opinion, and
Sure.
we take a stand on it.
Okay.
You still said nothing.
I said everything. Listen again. Pull it back.
I'm not sure you want him to listen again.
Listen
But
again.
anyways,
There's
this is a
plenty of
bad
comments down
situation.
below.
Rey Mysterio, obviously the Kurt Angle situation, and now the Jeff Hardy situation in the latter half of 2009. Not a good story for the wrestling business, fact or fiction, arrested or not arrested, convicted or acquitted. Not a good situation to have all these drug things starting to come out again. Luckily, everyone seems to be tied up with other things in the government right now, and this isn't getting the legs that it's gotten in the past from some congressmen and some senators.
They're
in the United
busy,
States.
and if they were bored, they would be able to bring this
But
in
think
too.
about it. There's the same problem in football.
Yep.
You got the guys in the Vikings and the Saints. You had the whole A-Rod thing in baseball.
Correct.
It's everywhere. They're not
Right.
going to control
It's not just
Yeah.
right. It's not just wrestling. Let
But
me make that
wrestling
clear
always
as
gets the
well.
black eye because it's the larger-than-life characters.
Well,
that
wrestling
people
gets a
see on
black eye
TV.
because it's not a sport.
Well, it's more so the marketing or the belief that it's marketed towards children. And these are
I'll go
role
with
models,
that.
and much like in the professional sports teams, these are role models that people look up to and children look up to. Now the question, this all came from a tip. The only reason Jeff Hardy's house was searched, the only reason they found all this, the only reason he's charged with 3 felonies amongst other things, is somebody tipped off the police.
And it was not CM Punk, okay? It wasn't. So get that out of your head. It wasn't CM Punk.
There are a lot of people who believe a lot of different things as far as
It was
who could have
Ray.
made that tip.
No, I'm just kidding. It
And
wasn't
you
Ray.
think about who would know that these things were there. You think about who would want to bring it to the attention of the authorities, and I think the story gets a lot more complex at that point.
We're working on it. We're going to find out what the tip was about. Apparently, the Hardys, everyone knows who the tipster was and
Sure.
what all went down, and it's just a matter of time before it leaks to us.
Is there a woman scorned? Because apparently hell hath no fury.
Ah.
I don't think Lita was involved, even though she is dating CM Punk right now. Yeah.
Hmm.
We want to make sure
Really?
you remember to go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter name is PWR Show. Each of us are also individually on Twitter, so you can go ahead and follow that. And remember, on Wednesdays each week, we solicit your comments as to who to go in depth on. And this week, the winner is Teddy Long, actually.
Thaddeus!
Who we're going to be going in depth on
Which
later,
displeases the Booker man.
later in this episode.
Can't believe it.
Also, the ESPN radio show, we're going to be on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time again next week. Look for some announcements coming in the future about the show times and the air times for the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. But no matter what, as I said at the top of the program, Kip and BG James on last week, well, next week we've got some more guests lined up. And one of them we're going to keep us a surprise, but the 2 we're ready to announce. The phenomenal one, AJ Styles, will be joining us in an exclusive interview. The first time in almost 2 years appearing on this program, AJ Styles, and also returning to the Pro Wrestling Report since his first and very controversial interview post-WWE is Mr. Anderson. Ken Anderson will be returning to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. The only way to ensure you don't miss that show, if you're forgetful like me, is to go ahead and subscribe on iTunes to the program, and every time a new episode is released, you go ahead and get that dropped right to your iPhone or iPod. Also, go to pwrshow.com to keep in the conversation about upcoming broadcasts and past broadcasts.
So it's AJ, Ken, and a mystery guest?
AJ Styles of TNA Wrestling, Ken Anderson, who is going to be participating in the Hulkamania tour, and also a mystery guest who a lot of people were looking at this week. Let's just say that.
Yeah, a lot of Google searches, I think.
That is next week on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, and if you haven't checked out this week's show, make sure you do so as well. Gentlemen, Linda McMahon has resigned as WWE's Chief Executive Officer. Vince McMahon stepping into her place. Well, she has done so that she can make a run for the United States Senate. She's going to be running up against the Democrat Chris Dodd as she will try to get the Republican nomination for what will be a highly contested race. Linda had the following to say in her official statement on Wednesday. And I quote, "Washington is out of control, and sadly, Senator Chris Dodd has lost his way and our trust. I can't sit by on the sidelines anymore, knowing that I have both the experience and the strength to stand up to special interests and bring badly needed change for Washington." Reportedly, those familiar with her candidacy say she will spend heavily from her personal wealth. She will take no cash from political action committees or special interests and is limiting private donations to $100. McMahon has also, and this could be a little bit of a wrinkle in her plans, in 2006, I'm always 10 years off there. I was missed it with Kurt Angle.
You never get the dates right on anything,
It's
but
not good
go.
with dates.
No.
In 2006, Linda contributed $10,000 to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Linda McMahon, who is the business face of World Wrestling Entertainment, a wrestling company, is running for the United States Senate. There are 2 ways this can go. She could win, she could be serious about this, she could become a United States Senator, or this is all a publicity stunt by World Wrestling Entertainment. Because no matter what, in either situation, it's going to draw an amazing amount of attention to WWE. Already, a lot of reporters went to YouTube and searched Linda McMahon. Well, what did they come up with? Her being slapped by her daughter, or her sitting in a wheelchair comatose at WrestleMania. It's just not going to be a very good public relations story for Linda. And quite frankly, she can say, much like the Jesse Venturas, the Al Frankens, the
Barack Obamas,
Brian Blairs of the world, a lot of people have reached political office by regardless of their celebrity or regardless
Ronald
of some
Reagan.
things they may have been involved with that people may not have agreed with, because you are indeed playing a character on TV. What she will have going for her are the charitable efforts of World Wrestling Entertainment and the political Rock Your Vote rallies and whatnot.
Smack Down Your Vote.
The Smack Down Your Vote things that they're in association with Rock Your Vote, by the way, that they've done over the years. And it's a pretty good story if you can get around the wrestling entertainment aspect of it. So, Meathead, your thoughts. Linda McMahon wants to be a United States Senator.
As we talked about on the radio show 2 nights ago, unfortunately for the mass media, they're not going to be able to get around the wrestling portion of what she does for a living. This is what we talked about. Now, the one thing I guess I'm incorrect on that we talked about was, I said, why would she spend her own money? Apparently she's going to spend her own money. So
there are a lot of benefits. I mean, President Obama also did not take some of the public funding options,
Sure.
which allowed him to basically win.
David Octavius here.
I think that initially people are going to be attacking Vince McMahon, not Linda McMahon.
Mhm.
And of course, I think that Linda's done such a great job as the CEO of the company.
Mm-hmm.
She's made it profitable. They do extremely well. They do a lot of fundraising, Make-A-Wish, the whole thing. Like you said, Damien, she is the face of that company. Even though Vince is larger than life,
Mm-hmm.
the one that signs
She's
the
the true
checks
business face.
is Linda McMahon. And I see it's no coincidence that she hasn't been on TV for a couple of years.
Couple of years. It's been about a minute.
So obviously she's had plans to do this for quite a while. She pulls herself off of TV, and now she just runs the company. I really believe that once everyone gets past all the nonsense and the aura and all the theatrics of WWE, they're going to see that Linda McMahon is a qualified person to win.
I don't know which way this is going to go.
It's Connecticut,
Politics
right?
is so, yeah.
Okay, you know what we need actually is you, the viewers in Connecticut, to chime in, email in, and tell us what you think is going on.
I'm not sure, though. I think Jesse Ventura is the greatest success story almost in all of politics of an outsider winning. And when he won the governorship of Minnesota, it was, and not to bring it up again, but it was similar to what happened in the last presidential election. You got a lot of people out voting who people didn't expect to vote. And you got a lot of people who were not part of the traditional voting ranks who put Jesse Ventura in office. The
But
colleges,
at that
the
time,
younger groups.
wrestling was never bigger than it was back then either.
1998.
NWO, Austin 316, Know Your Role, The Rock. Wrestling was bigger than, it was mainstream. And Jesse rode that wave.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse was already mayor before that too, so he had some political background already.
No matter what, this is going to be a good thing for WWE because, again, they're going to get a ton of publicity from this. And, this Linda McMahon, it's going to be interesting.
Can you imagine when she wins, or if she wins?
Yeah, you already put her in office.
When they have the big party and, the CNN's there and MSNBC and Fox and you see Triple H and Shawn Michaels and
And
Randy
so
Orton.
And that's where it becomes a problem. It's the
one of the effect, if you will.
Exactly. It's one of the small problems that was with the XFL is they had to go back to their core. They had to go back to putting the recognizable wrestling aspect to it.
Sure.
Now, if she were to win, that'd be great, but they've got to keep it separate. It's got to be something completely separate, as she is now, from any other product that
And
the
we've
fans
talked
know
about
of.
this on the radio broadcast this week. How many times during a regular 2-hour Raw, SmackDown, or the 1-hour ECW are we going to hear about this?
I don't think very often.
Besides the 2-minute vignette, the 3-minute vignette, Linda on the
They got to walk
campaign
a very careful course.
This has been very well thought out. Think about it. Leading up to WrestleMania, Randy Orton beat up the entire McMahon family,
Except
for
for
Linda.
Good point.
So it's been well thought out. They know what they're doing. I'm sure they have amazing advisors and
She's retained some of the top Republican political advisors in the
She's on my
Northeast.
team, apparently.
So
Team
you're not going
Elephant.
to be there?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
Well, he's a young Republican, so.
I'm not tied to any certain party. I think
Yes, you are.
some
I didn't say you were
some
tied.
Republican views are are very very logical and smart, and I think most Democratic views are logical and smart.
So you're saying you're a Bill O'Reilly guy or a Keith Olbermann guy?
Lou Dobbs,
No.
who I can't stand, by the way, but be that as it may. Ratings for last week. WWE Raw up against Jay Leno and Monday Night Football. Jay Leno, who drew 18 million viewers in his first outing on Monday night and Monday Night Football, which was obviously a very successful game, putting
2
ESPN
games.
at the top of the ratings for the last month now. Got a 3.4, down from its 3.8 last week. What did you guys think of Trish Stratus's performance this past Monday as the guest host?
Physically, she looked amazing.
I thought it
I
was
prefer
rather
the blonde.
it was uneventful. It's kind of hard to follow up, when you got Bob Barker doing so well.
Bob Barker laid a path for other people to follow.
I mean, but here's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, it's great to see Trish. How over would it have been if it wasn't in her hometown?
Toronto, right.
Yeah.
You know? You
Good
put her
point.
down like in Phoenix.
But she is the
Anybody
diva
care?
of the decade. I don't know if you caught that the 18 times I said it.
Yeah, but I want to see somebody else different down there. I
Bob
don't wanna see
Barker.
another wrestler. It's like having Sergeant Slaughter there again.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Bob Barker was that guy that
I
had
will
nothing
say
to
this:
do had
I'm
nothing
not
to do
looking
with
forward
wrestling.
to seeing Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh,
Where's he been?
doing stuff.
Yeah,
Kings of
that
Comedy.
I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I'm sure him and Santino will have some great stuff. I'm sure him and Mark Henry will have some amazing
Santino's
stuff.
just fodder now, isn't he?
Yeah,
But he's on TV every night.
it's because he's.
I don't think,
older.
was he on Raw last week? I don't think he made it.
Mm.
I don't recall
No,
Santino saying
since he did the Shockmaster, no, I haven't seen him.
WWE SmackDown got a 1.8 rating last week, down from its 2.0 the week before. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the screw job at Breaking Point. The Undertaker not able to win the World Heavyweight Championship from CM Punk. Thaddeus has a lot of explaining to do, and he will do so tonight on WWE SmackDown. So, a little bit of a spoiler.
And let's not forget, SmackDown also is losing another one of their big stars.
And getting a star.
Batista.
No, yeah. But I'm saying the Great Khali taking some time off.
That's one of their stars?
Oh yeah, the
Did
Great
you-
Khali.
Tell me you didn't just say that.
I did. He's money.
Obviously, you're 100% gimmick.
Spoiler alert, they are going to explain away knee injury by Khali with Kane on in a segment on this Friday's SmackDown, but more
When
importantly...
we watched the pay-per-view and we saw Kane chokeslam and beat Khali,
Mhm.
didn't I say I think he's fired?
You did. You said that.
I'm like,
That's it
he's
for the
got to be
Great
gone.
Khali.
You know.
I wish people could watch that wrap-up, but World Wrestling Entertainment seems to think they own it.
You know what? I'm used to that. Cease and desist. That's
You
all
know
we
why
do.
it got pulled off? It wasn't from WWE. I did it. There was gimmick infringement in the opening 5 seconds of that wrap-up. Nobody says my line. And that's the bottom line.
Continuing along here, the Charlie Haas, I almost said, Teddy Long, who
Same
arrives in a
guy.
limo surrounded by security, explains that he did what he did because he was afraid he was going to lose his job. Some intriguing stuff going to happen on SmackDown tonight, so be sure to tune in on my network TV. ECW last week got a 1.2 rating, down from its 1.35 when they aired
Yeah.
the Shawn Michaels.
So you're saying they lost all those ratings because they weren't airing more WrestleMania matches?
Basically, that's what the numbers are
So,
showing.
what, Meathead right, Damien wrong?
I never said there was a problem with
I
it.
just wanted to say
No,
that.
no.
I just
I
wanted
was
to-
the one who was right because I said it. They're going to get a peak. They're going to have more people tune in after this.
Yeah, no, they had less people tune in after it.
No,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah,
No,
they're
they're
back.
back to the ratings they were getting before. They got a 1 week
Right,
pop.
so they
What's
didn't
wrong
have-
with that?
That's not what you said. You said that they would get more viewers because they did that.
And they did.
And
They
did.
didn't keep them.
We didn't
Wow.
say he's going to keep him.
Oh, you're on his side now?
It's you versus the world, of course. TNA Impact last week got a 0.9 rating, which is not good news for them. However, let's discuss
They've
that.
dropped a lot, haven't they? Weren't they like at a 2 recently?
No.
Like a few months ago,
No, they
6,
had gotten
7
as high as a
months ago?
1.3, 1.4
No.
ish.
Yeah, they've never
But
made two.
here's the thing. Are they going to stick with this new plan, this new programming? We know BG James and Jim Cornette were released last week. BG James actually appearing on the Pro Wrestling Report this past week. We broke that news story to the world that those two had been released from TNA. A lot of people gone now. Savio Vega, Dutch Mantel. A lot of people gone from TNA Wrestling. They're pushing the younger talent. They're pushing Matt Morgan. They're pushing Eric Young. A little bit of AJ Styles in there as well. Less of the Mick Foley, less of the Main Event Mafia. Is this going to be worth sticking with? Because sometimes you do have to take several steps backward to take a leap forward. Meathead, your thoughts?
You're right, and it may be good TV for the IWC because it's now guys that they want to see. But as far as TV business, it's a mistake.
Well, keep in mind, though, and I don't have comparative information, but there are NFL games on Thursdays as well.
There was one NFL game on Thursday.
I said there are NFL games on Thursdays.
And I corrected you. I mean, this is the guy that called into the radio show and said, I don't know what's going on here. There's a baseball game
was
going on.
5-2. It was
There
during a
will be
break
future
between
Thursday
innings. I
night
thought
games.
that there were, which
There
is
will
why I
be
said
down the road,
NFL
right.
games on Thursdays.
There's an opening night game.
If I
And
would have
then
said
after
on Thursday, it would have been a wrong statement. I said Thursdays.
Then after
Enough
Thanksgiving.
semantics on that.
Thanksgiving and
You
forward.
know that
they have-
silent and listen have the same letters?
TNA Impact up against the NFL just like WWE is, so that could be, because it has been over the course of the last 3 weeks, I believe that their ratings have been down. That could be a contributing factor. I'm not making excuses. I'm simply saying it could be a contributing factor to their lower ratings.
I think what hurts TNA is that they do 2 or 3 weeks of TV, and the spoilers, the people that watch the product, are reading it online.
Uh-oh. Because here we are, the Pro Wrestling Report saying spoilers help and then hurt and then help and then hurt.
Well, they do.
I
Because
agree.
You choose
I agree
what you
with
want to
you.
watch then.
I agree with you that
The
the
case in
spoilers
point.
can help and the spoilers can hurt. Case in point, as Damien was probably about to say, John Morrison versus Rey Mysterio. Heard how amazing a match it was? It got me to watch the entire match. If you hear what's going on Impact and you're like, it seems like another flat show, I'm not going to watch it.
Spoilers have changed the history of wrestling.
And the defining moment in which people should have realized that you never want to give spoilers as a deterrent is when Tony Schiavone announced that Mick Foley would be the new champion on Raw, and people left Nitro in droves. It backfired. TNA did confirm in a conversation with the offices the other day that they are going back to the every 2-week tapings. So they're going to be doing that. So that's less time now that will be over the course
But what
of
happened to the
taping.
live impacts?
Oh, why do it? They really didn't
They're
get a bump from
expensive.
them. They didn't get a bump.
But still,
Here's the problem with the live impacts. The
they didn't do anything
No,
for
the
it.
crowds they get in the impact zone aren't wrestling fans. So
For the most part, yeah.
So they got to pipe in the boos and the cheers and everything else.
Like WWE does.
Sure, but at
Right.
least the ones that show up for Raw are wrestling fans.
For the most
They're
part,
not. They're not people walking around a theme park saying, "Hey, let's go
Hey.
check this out."
yeah.
Across the pond ratings last week, again, information's a little bit skewed because of some preemptions for WWE programming due to the U.S. Open and some other sporting events. TNA Impact garnered 43,000 viewers, down from its 58,000 the prior week. WWE Raw with 40,000 viewers, down from its 120,000 the prior week, and only one airing. WWE SmackDown with 33,000 viewers as well. So TNA Impact, the most watched show just by a little bit over in the UK this week. But again, WWE with some programming challenges. At our poll at pwrshow.com, you all decided that 62% of you actually decided that WWE SmackDown was the best show last week, followed by Impact with 23% and Raw with 10%.
So Superstars and ECW don't even reach the map
Right.
anymore.
We're not gonna.
But
Well,
what
they're
I'm
on
saying-
there. But
yeah, but it's
tough.
like a random 7 votes. They don't even reach the map.
They're the Dennis Kucinich of the voting. I caught your comments there about Rob Terry last night. You know, Kip James really ripped you a new one, which was fun to listen to. Kip's in your
hot.
place. Yeah, it was a good show.
It was a good interview, actually. Kip was cordial.
We talked about Twitter earlier, and we talked about submitting your names for people who you would like to cover more in-depthly. And this week, the winner, Teddy Long, got submitted by a person on Twitter by the name of Simon Nicole Diamond.
Did you
Not-
just pull the name out of a hat? Is that how you chose Teddy Long?
No, they tweeted.
No, it was tweeted.
Well, several. No. To that point, though, several people did
Right, that's what I'm
suggest
saying.
Teddy. It was yes, we select one of the
Okay.
submitters to.
Again,
Do that.
you're making Dave hot.
I'm not hot.
It's actually quite cool in here today.
You pouted almost, actually.
Teddy
when you said
Long,
Teddy
currently the general manager of WWE SmackDown, the longest running general manager, I think, of any, and the only general manager to leave and come back to a program, because briefly going to ECW from, I believe, June of 2008 through April of this year. Teddy Long actually had a lot of time in the wrestling business before coming over to World Wrestling Entertainment. He was a longtime referee and manager in WCW and the NWA, and then coming over to WWE as a referee in 1999 until being put into an on-air role managing talents in WWE.
Roddy Mack?
Yes, indeed.
Jazz.
And
I got it.
Then put
And
over
Mark
to.
Henry.
And Mark Henry.
I have the names here. I just wasn't going to reference them until later, so you don't have anything. But Teddy Long, he's been in the business longer than anybody really can tell. And what I mean by that is most people think of him as a GM on SmackDown. I don't even know how many people remember him as a referee in WWE, but Teddy Long is an amazingly talented
He was part of the
62-year-old
strike.
man and probably the most entertaining general manager next to, I would say, Eric Bischoff of all the general managers that we've seen. Your thoughts, Dave Hero?
For me, Teddy Long, when I think of him as the manager of the Skyscrapers. You know, and do
Spivey and Justice?
or Spivey and Mean Mark Calloway, the Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
He's
That's
either-
it. You
Thanks
just
for
not
going in depth. Boy,
Let me
you
tell
just-
you, before the show, he was a little hot that Simon
Really?
had chosen
It's like,
Teddy Long.
Teddy Long, really? Are
Really?
you serious?
It's a fan submission. You're picking on the fans. We give them the
I'm
opportunity
not
to
picking on the
choose.
fans. I'm just like, wow, of all the wrestlers out there, you know, I mean,
It was suggested last week on the program by this one that we look at Teddy Long, and that got a lot of people to make that inquiry.
well, I hope you're happy.
Meathead Teddy
Thanks
Long.
for all the work. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for
Teddy Long.
Teddy Long. How should I be more amused by Teddy Long when he was when he was telling us to call him Thaddeus, when he was the mean militant manager of
He's still the Mac Militant.
of Rodney Mack and Jazz and Mark Henry. When we holler at him in the ring, when you say, we're a mark for you, Teddy Long, and he screams, "I want my T-shirt." Should we, talk about Teddy Long controlling Raw for a minute, ECW for a minute, SmackDown forever? Teddy Long just entertains me.
That's
Are
the
you
key.
entertained by the walk?
It's
Oh,
everything.
it's
He's George
Teddy
Jefferson.
Long.
He is having fun.
That's
And he
what
is enjoying
entertains.
his role, and he is just very good at what he does, in my opinion. This role that he is in is perfect for him. And the interactions with McMahon over the last few weeks and what you'll see on SmackDown this week, I think, gives a little bit more dimension to that role. But I
When he
I
gets
really
out in the ring,
do
when he
think
walks,
Teddy adds
to the
product.
ring, gets out in the ring, dances, talks on the mic.
I think Gary Coleman when I see him walk to the ring.
Gary Coleman's
Coleman?
half his size.
I
Apparently,
think
you're a
Gary
Teddy
Coleman.
Long hater
No, that's what I think
because
of.
that's
Who
a-
struts better? Is it his or McMahon's? Vince McMahon's.
I'll give Teddy that right there.
Teddy's better than Vince
Oh,
on
yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
Dave
Teddy Long.
Hero, Teddy Long hater.
I'm not a hater, just
Clearly not on your not on the top of your list.
Really?
not in my top 100 of guys I would have picked.
Subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Report on iTunes. Both video and audio podcasts are available for free on iTunes, so be sure to scoop those up. Also, as we said earlier, we're all on Twitter, including the show, PWR Show, on Twitter. And coming up Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern.
And 1 a.m. in Zimbabwe.
The guest we will have, in
Not
addition to a
confirmed.
surprise guest, AJ Styles, a phenomenal one.
Ding.
You guys have got to be ecstatic about that. That's your guy.
We like AJ, and I confessed on the radio program again. You said you were off doing whatever you were doing with a Wrigley dog or whatever. We have emotional investment in AJ Styles. We like AJ Styles.
So it'll be a bunch of softballs and fluff for you guys.
No. There's no fluffers on this very program.
All right, just checking. That's your guy.
Joining AJ next week will be the return of Ken Anderson to the Pro Wrestling Report. So it's a big show. You want to make sure you tune in for that. Also, be sure to tune in on Monday. We'll have a brand new episode of PWR Q&A Express. And then on Tuesday, we're actually going to have a follow-up discussion to something that stirred a lot of discussion, which is, did he or did he not? Did Hulk Hogan make WCW?
Or what about Hulk Hogan?
And then Wednesday we'll be back with another edition of Q&A. For the man they call Meathead, and Dave Hero, and the Kaz, who, by the way, the Kaz returns to TV next week. He'll be on PWR Primetime in a new segment.
He was the guy that was screaming last week, wasn't he?
No, that was
No?
not him. He was
Okay.
not being assaulted. And a new segment called The Cazspective. Yes, The Cazspective. You send in a couple topics. Anything you want to hear Frank's perspective on, send those in to comments at pwrshow.com.
I think
and
I'd like it.
he will spend a couple of minutes answering those directly. Not email questions, topics, his thoughts, his perspective. So, for
What Kaz thinks of that?
For all of us, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. We'll see you again Monday with a brand new edition of PWR Express.